Facebook can't stop doing stupid shit. They're a lot like YouTube nowadays. So this is what's happening in the news now. Business Insider says, in yet another viral case of Facebook struggling to police hate speech on its platform, parts of the Declaration of Independence posted by a newspaper in Texas were taken down earlier this week after the social media giant flagged the excerpts as hate speech. The post has since been restored, and Facebook has apologized. The Vindicator, a small community newspaper in Liberty County, Texas, started posting excerpts of the Declaration of Independence earlier this week leading up to the 4th of July. While the newspaper was able to post the majority of the Declaration of Independence without any issue, one post contained the phrase, Indian savages, which, out of context, would appear to violate Facebook's community standards. Here's the entire sentence. He has excited domestic insurrections amongst us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an indistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. See, this is what happens when you go algorithm crazy. You go, well, we got these algorithms that make sure you can't post hateful stuff. But it's not even just that, to be honest, because even when you get human beings involved, still, many human beings don't have reasonable judgment, and they will pull things down that perhaps shouldn't be pulled down. You know, the whole idea of definitely Twitter, but maybe Facebook as well to an extent, though I'm not sure, it was supposed to be an experiment in radical free speech. And, you know, the idea was, hey, say whatever you want. You obviously can't threaten anybody, and you can't break the law. But other than that, pretty much say whatever you want. And if somebody wants to, at least on Twitter, if somebody doesn't want to hear your bullshit, they could mute you or block you. Seems like a pretty reasonable fucking answer to me. But no, over time, there's been this media-driven hysteria where they just try, you're not doing enough. There's harassment of people of color and women, and these people say terrible things to each other. We have to stop it. And it just ends up manifesting as run-of-the-mill censorship. Because, of course, if you're begging Silicon Valley oligarchs to be the arbiters of morality, they are gonna fucking faceplant and fail beyond imagination. And that's exactly what's happening. It's happening with Twitter, it's happening with Facebook, it's happening on YouTube with the demonetization crisis and things of that nature. So, hands off is the best approach, you know? But no, we're going to start seeing more and more stories like this the more people get censorship happy. And people are censorship happy at the moment. And they want to protect people from hurt feelings, as opposed to recognizing that the price you pay for freedom sometimes is hurt feelings. Now, again, I'm not saying if somebody threatens you directly, that's not allowed. In fact, that's against the law. So yeah, take action. Suspend accounts, do have terms of service and enforce them. But it's just, where do you draw that line? And in my opinion, the line should lean as much towards free speech as possible. And when you move away from that line, you're going to get a zillion more goofy stories like this. It's like, I posted the Declaration of Independence, hate speech, pull it down. And not for nothing, just for the record here, it's hilariously ironic that, you know, like, settlers of the U.S. were like, look at these Indian savages. Let's kill them all. They're savages. What? You sound like the savages. It's always, so it's hilariously ironic, and it is kind of hateful, don't get me wrong. But should it be allowed on a fucking social media platform? Yes! Yes! Duh, the Constitution, the original Constitution, had slavery in it. Had the 3/4 compromise. 3/5? 3/4? I should probably know that. Hilarious. The thing itself is not hilarious. The fact that I don't know it is hilarious. But, yeah, if you want to have an accurate retelling of history, if you want to have a real open exchange of ideas, you can't, like, draw lines around mean things and say, lop it off, not allowed, whether it's on Facebook or on Twitter or what have you. And I just think it's ridiculous. And listen, I was tweeting about this yesterday. Seth Rogen was like, I spoke to Jack of why the bizarre verification of white supremacists that's been happening on this platform. And I come to the conclusion he just doesn't give a fuck. And I find this conversation so silly because it's not like Jack is secretly pro-white supremacist. Jack, the whole idea of verification is it's not a value judgment. It's not saying we agree with them, which is why they have the check mark. It's just saying this person is big enough to be impersonated. That's it. There's nothing more, nothing less. That's it. So I'm verified. So is fucking Ted Cruz. It's impossible to agree with both me and Ted Cruz because we are exact opposites on the political spectrum. So it's not Twitter saying we agree with them. It's just, hey, they're big enough to be impersonated. That's it. And when people try, it's like slacktivism. I want to be a good person. I want to help the world, but I don't want to do any hard work. So I'm just going to act like, white supremacy's bad, so bad, don't verify those accounts. You're so bad. Poop face. And it's like, you're not being a serious person, and you're not really, like, they think they're having a brave and noble impact on the world. You're not having a brave and noble impact. You're not at all. And if anything, that circles the wagons and gets the troops to fall in line and be more interested in what those people are saying because you now made it taboo. And you're making it so that these things are pushed into the dark fringes of the internet where they fester and they go not responded to. And that's my concern is what I think the left should do is acknowledge the facts of reality and respond accordingly. And the reality is, listen, there has been a resurgence of white supremacy. There has been a resurgence of genuinely bigoted and stupid ideas. Instead of acting like, we need to de-verify Congressman Steve King because he retweeted Nazis and he's a white supremacist. Instead of doing that, which is a silly thing to do, you have to acknowledge, look at this douchebag. He's fucking popular, and he's a congressman, and he's he is a white supremacist, and he's got neo-Nazi sympathies. So let's talk about it. Let's get it out there in the open. Let's discuss why he's incorrect and why the things he says are absolutely stupid. And I don't see that reaction. I see more of a reaction of like, let's just pretend like that's not the case by de-verifying him and trying to push him underground and act like there's no reason to respond to it. I don't agree with that reaction. Anyway, this is a random side rant. Point is, Facebook's algorithms, and even when the human beings get involved and they try to regulate these things, they always end up doing a poor job, and censorship never works with the intended consequences. If anything, the opposite happens.